Good afternoon. I call the November 19th, 2021 meeting of the Return Board for the 2021 General and Special Election to order. First, I will preserve the order and decorum of these meetings. Everyone in attendance should be on notice that shouting out or interrupting the proceedings will not be tolerated. Those who violate this will be asked to leave. The Sunshine Act permits anyone attending a public meeting to object to a perceived violation at any time during the meeting. If you choose to do so, please succinctly state your objection. Objecting is not an opportunity for speech making. We will now move to public comment. Commenters shall state where they live, or if they are not a resident of Philadelphia, that they are a Philadelphia taxpayer. Public comment is not an opportunity for dialogue or Q&A. It is public comment, a chance for you to tell us what you think. Each speaker shall have 2 minutes. However, I may extend this time at my discretion. All public comments must be relevant or germane to board business. Finally, it is my responsibility to preserve the order and decorum of the meeting. As such, profane, slanderous, discriminatory, or personal attacks will not be tolerated. If anyone is here for the casting of lots for the tied elections, please make sure that you sign in so that the staff can call you when we get to that part of the meeting. Is there anyone here for public comment? Hearing now, we will now move to Secretary Kabir's deputy for emailed public comment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There were no email public comments by 10:45 a.m.
Thank you. We will now proceed to new business. We will do the results of the canvass. We will go out of order of the agenda and have Supervisor of Elections, Garrett Beeks, read the results of the canvass and computation first. Garrett?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Garrett.
So here are the results of the recount for the Office of Judge of Commonwealth Court. Lori A. Dumas, 170,178 votes. David Lee Spurgeon, 156,776 votes. Stacy Marie Wallace, 40,586 votes. Drew Crompton, 39,039 votes. Write-ins, 327.
Thank you, Garrett. Next, we will go back to Garrett Weeks, the supervisor of elections, who will conduct the casting of the lots for the tied elections.
Hi. Before we begin drawing lots, I just wanted to go over kind of the rules of the road before we proceed. So, races where one or more candidates are present will be prioritized for drawing. The county board will draw an order of ward division, starting with majority inspector races and then proceed to minority inspector races. If more than one person is present to draw for the same race, the candidate that was checked in first will draw first, and so on. For a tie in the majority inspector race, the candidate that draws ball number 1 wins the majority inspector title, and the candidate that draws ball number 2 wins the minority inspector position. For a tie in the minority inspector race, the candidate that draws ball number 1 wins the position. To draw on behalf of a candidate as a proxy, the proxy must have a letter signed by the candidate authorizing them to do so. A county board of elections employee will draw for candidates not present. For all races where no candidate or proxy is present, we will use a random function in Excel to decide the tiebreaker. The candidate that draws the largest number in the random function will win the tie. If the tie is for majority inspector, the candidate that was assigned the second largest number by the random function wins the minority inspector position. Judges of election ties will not be drawn today. By state election law, those ties will be decided by the elected majority inspector instead of the drawing of lots. Once a race has been drawn, either in person or in Excel, we will not redo the tiebreaker draw for any reason. All board worker position winners will be mailed a certificate within the next few weeks. Unfortunately, we don't have those certificates available at the moment. So I guess we can begin. So our first race, first we'll begin with the majority inspector ties. And as I said, we're going to prioritize those where somebody is present. So Ward 1, Division 12, Edward Charles Coffin, you can come up. So the tie between Edward Charles Coffin and Bill Cosby. Yeah. Number 1. So Edward, you're the majority inspector, and Bill Cosby named as the minority inspector. Thank you. Next, we have Ward 5, Division 2. We have a 5-way tie between Aesop Rocky, Daniel Wheeler, Jackson Steinkamp, Joel Embiid, and Nancy Gross. I have a Daniel Wheeler here. Yeah. The pressure's on. So throw a ball from the can of destiny. Number three, I'll draw for the other 4 contestants. Aesop Rocky gets number 5. And number 2 for Jackson Steinkamp. Number 1 for Joel Embiid. And number 4 for Nancy Gross. The next one. Our next is Ward 5, Division 23. Do we have a Michael Reisman here? For the race, we also have Carly Eden, Leonard Gerber, and Vikram Patel. Michael, if you want to draw? Number 3. I'll draw for the other candidates. Carly Eden. Number 2. For Leonard Gerber. Number 1. And for Vikram Patel. Number 4. Next office we have is Ward 8, Division 16. I'm sorry, Ward 8, Division 13. Do we have a Jacob Zumoff here? We also have candidates Dan Kane and Harold Frucher. Number 2. I'll draw for Dan Kane. Number 3. Which means Harold Frucher gets number 1. Next, we have Ward 17, or I'm sorry, Ward 15, Division 15, Stelly Ford. We also have Jordan Scott Friedman, Chris Anthony Aludis, and Tim Lisco in this tiebreaker. Number 3. I'll draw for Jordan. Number 1. For Chris. Number 2. And Tim Lisco gets number 4. Next, we have Ward 17, Division 23. Do we have a David Kinnery here? Kinnery? Number 1, we tied with a Therese Holmes, who gets number 2. So I'll be sending this. Thanks for coming out. Next, we have Ward 21, Division 42, Douglas Morrison. And for the position, we also have a Lori McCormick. Number 2, which means Lori McCormick gets number 1. Next, we have a 3-way tie in 2309. We have a Lloyd Berger and a Thomas Carping. We'll have Lloyd draw first. We also have David Loudon as part of the tie as well. All right, Lloyd, if you'll draw first. Number 2. Number 3. That's it. It's coming out. And David receives number 1. Next, we have Ward 23, Division 17, a two-way tie between Calvin Henderson and Chris Mildinsky. Calvin? Number 1. All right, lucky number 1, which means Chris gets number 2. Next, we have Ward 31, Division 1. It's a 5-way tie. Do we have a Michael Dumpy here? We also have Aaron Caldwell, Marcos Ramos, Maureen McGinty, and Todd Bailey. Number 5. A draw for Aaron. Number 4. Draw for Marcos. Number 2. Maureen. Number 1 means Todd receives number 3. Next is a 3-way tie in Ward 32, Division 26. We have Curtis English here. We also have a Nadra Fletcher and a Tony Delane Rogers in the tie. All right, number 2. Draw for Nadra, number 1. And Tony is number 3. Next, we have Ward 36, Division 10. Do we have Nateen Salkade? Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. We also have Jean Paul Kuntave and Sharon Wood for this tie. Okay, number 1. And I'm gonna go for that. So for Jean, number 3, which means Sharon gets number 2. Next, we have Ward 36, Division 38. We have John Molnar, John Michael Sheffo, Michael Brallo, and William A. Ryan Jr. Michael will draw first. 4. Number 4. Next, John. Number 2. Number 3. And William Ryan is number 1. Next, we have Ward 36, Division 40. Zach Travis and Stephen Bober. Zach? Number 1. Which Stephen Dover gets number 2. Next, we have Ward 38, Division 3, Patricia Giles. We also have Lawana Rawls and Marissa Murray Bailey in the tiebreaker. Number 2. A girl for Lawana. Number 3 means Melissa gets number 1. Next, we have 5215, Matthew Garrison Tan, tied with Leslie Coker. Number 2 means Leslie gets number 1. Next, we have Ward 58, Division 30, a 3-way tie. We have Robert Murray here. We also have Jacqueline Homa and Joel Levin as part of the tie. Number 1. I'll draw for Jacqueline. Number 3 means Joel gets number 2. Next, we have Ward 61, Division 22, Sharon Burnett, tied with Rochelle Reynolds. Number 2 means Rochelle gets number 1. Next, we have Ward 64, Division 5, Denise Montgomery, tied with Jason Clark. One's in there. Number 2 means Jason gets number 1. Next, we have, now we're moving to minority inspector ties. Ward 1, Division 21. Bruce Romanchuk. Bruce, you unfortunately tied with B. Romanchuk. Yes. Number 2 means B. Romanchuk. It's number 1. Next, we have a 5-way tie for minority inspector in 2101. We have Leslie Sellers. We also have a Hannah Short, Jaquita Price Johnson, Laura Kreschelek Jr., and Ludwig von Nisses. Number 1. Hannah is number 4. Jaquita, number 2. Laura, number 3. Ludwig is number 5. Next, Ward 31, Division 15, Thomas Nallens, also tied with Michael Kennedy and Mike Bobby. Number 3. And I'll draw for Michael Kennedy. Number 2, which means Mike Bobby gets number 1. Next, Ward 56, Division 12, Colleen Doyle and Oltion Mirtai. Colleen? Number 2, which means Oltion gets number 1. Thanks for coming in. Next, we have Ward 58, Division 24, Ian Matthew Michael Berg, tied with Leon Werb. Number 1, means Leon gets number 2. Next, we have a 3-way tie for 59-18. We have a Pat Edward tied with Al Schmidt and R.C. Davis. Could be a different Al Schmidt, we don't know. Number 3 for Pat. I'll draw for Al, number 1, which means RC gets number 2. Congratulations to that Al Schmidt, wherever he may be. Next, Ward 63, Division 20, Richard Black. There's also Michelle Byers for the position. Number 2, which means Michelle, is number 1. One second. All right, so we're going to go back to the majority inspectors. We have a 2-way tie between Christian Parker and Cody J. Shields. Christian draws. Number 1. And Cody gets number 2. Next, we have Ward 61, Division 23. Do we have a Joshua Valashi here? We also have Michelle Thompson and Tiandra Williams for the position. Number 1. Draw for Michelle. Number 3, which means Tiandra gets number 2. Next, we have a three-way tie. Three-way tie for minority inspector in 5819. We have a Laura Swords in here. We also have Alex Criselli and Frank Ferraro tied for the position. Number two. For Alex. Number three, which means Frank gets number one. Is there anybody present that is not yet drawn for their race?
Is anybody here that we didn't call your name?
Okay, so now the rest of the races will be randomized in Excel, and we have it up on the screen over there.
Thank you. So we have the randomization available to be seen on the monitor to my left. Anybody is interested in seeing that? I'd like to thank everybody who took the time out of their busy day to come up here to draw these lots as per the election code. Commissioner Schmidt, do you have any items to be added to the agenda?
I do not.
Devin, do you have any items to be added to the agenda on behalf of Commissioner Severe?
I do not.
Thank you. There are no items on the agenda.